Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel in the first place. Today we have Saw You in a Dream chapters 13 and 14 by Fiction Please on AO3. The link will be in the description, and in the top right there will be a little info card with the first part. Alright, let's go ahead and get into it. Getting ready for bed was the same process as last night. He stoked the fire, making the flames rise and the wood burn. You went to the mattress and laid flat on your back. The candle set atop the table casted moving shadows on the ceiling above you. A distorted version of Kotsky wobbled on the concrete wall. He moved up next to you, laying on his side, back to you. You sighed and he shifted, clearly not drifting off yet. You started humming an indiscriminate tune, a song that was always stuck in your head. He shifted onto his back now too, except he turned his head towards yours. You know that song? His voice was hushed for what reason, you didn't know. You nodded. You know that song? It was a slow one, heartfelt and filled with violins in the background. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. You felt the tip of his finger on your skin. It traced the line of your jaw, moving down your neck. You squirmed, ticklish. But as he retracted it, your chest bubbled with the urge to pull his hand back. Mine too, you hummed, and he followed along, your arm raised, drawing lines in the air as if the music was actually playing. He chuckled, mimicking you. Perfect, you thought. You moved your hand closer, slipping your fingers between his. He stopped humming, fingers still in the air. Afraid you made the wrong choice, you began to let go. Suddenly, though, he squeezed your hand shut, trapping yours under his. You smiled, letting your entwined hand fall onto the threaded blanket. Falling asleep wasn't as hard as you'd imagine, just letting the tiredness take its course. A surrounding alarm blasted through your skull. The sunlight shone through the blinds, hitting you with its brightness and early morning heat. You felt like you had slept for longer than a night, a lingering sense of comfort and energy. Yet still, there was a feeling of something missing, your hand colder than usual. Pushing the feeling down, the smell of pancakes had you stepping out of bed and into the hall. Your mom was standing at the stove, apron wrapped around her torso. You lifted an eyebrow. Good morning? She twirled around, hand holding a spatula, smile plastered. Good morning, dearest child of mine. Care for some cakes of the pan kind? You nodded slowly, wondering who this woman was and what she had done with your mother. It wasn't even the weekend. She must be skipping work for the day. Glancing down the hall, you noticed her office was closed. No light creeping from under the door either. She turned back, flipping one on the stove. You shook your head, going to wash up. While you were getting ready, you caught on something shining from the top of your dresser. Its glare hit you in the eyes, red light coming from it. Getting closer, you realized it was a pair of earrings. They were small, shaped like half moons, crescents, ruby red and matching your outfit. You shrugged and decided to put them on. The day passed like any other Friday. Lectures, exams, lunch, repeat. You were planning on stopping to your regular after-school coffee place, but you got a text from your mom reminding you to return home straight after. Preparing to grab a snack and spend the rest of the afternoon in your room, you were surprised to see your mom at the table. She had papers scattered, computer open. Smiling when you walked in, she waved you over. How was school? She was genuinely asking, not trying to interrogate. It was okay. I'm ready for the weekend though. You hadn't had an actual conversation since your dad was here. She nodded knowingly. Me too, what a long week. She sighed, shaking her head dramatically. Either she was trying too hard, or you were missing something. Yeah, well, I'll be going up to my room now. You got up, already walking away. She turned back to the papers, smiled back. Okay, I'll have dinner ready in a couple hours. Dinner? Now you were really confused. She changed so much from one night to the next. It was as if she was back to normal, whatever that was now. It felt uneven, the family dynamic, like you were missing a link. The one in the middle, the one that kept you connected to everything and everyone else. Turns out, she really did cook dinner. Some things were a bit overcooked, and when you say overcooked, you meant charred. But at least she tried. That was a step you hadn't seen coming. And she was consistently trying to keep up conversation, almost afraid of silence, afraid of slipping into the white noise of the forks hitting plates and cups being set on the table, a picture devoid of him, devoid of his pure dad jokes, his crazy work stories, his loving teases and jabs. One day, not today, but one day maybe the silence wouldn't be so daunting. You helped clean up and did your best to adjust as fast as she did. That night, you went to bed, not happy, but also not incredibly sad. Your arms flew above you, air flying past. You felt the pull of your weight, falling and falling. One blink, and you were at the cliff again. The world spread before you. The sky was gray, dark clouds drifting in from the left. Katsuki was already seated crisscross on the grass. You couldn't help missing the old wooden cabin. Lovely day, huh? You sat down next to him, leaning back on your hands. Long time no see. Seems like the weather wanted to give us a big welcome back, he replied sarcastically. Scanning your face, he was already able to tell that you didn't have the best day. You sighed, tired of holding yourself up, and laid back. The clouds drew closer with each second. Was your day okay? Maybe it was because now you knew better about his day-to-day life, but you'd felt extra inclined towards asking about his day, his feelings. He hummed, "Yeah, actually, I got to have a good training match with one of the better nerds. Yours?" Looking down, he fiddled with his hands. My mom's acting like a bit of a loony, but that's pretty normal by now. I guess it's just as time goes on, the more we have to get used to being without my dad." You made gestures in the air, setting your hands back on your stomach. "So, your dad?" His voice lifted at the end. "Yeah? You talk about him, but I feel like I don't know much about him." He wanted to get you talking. He loved the sound of your voice and figured this was something you needed right now. It was the least he could do, especially after the previous night. What else did he like, other than All Might, of course? You laughed. I'm surprised you remember that. Pausing, you thought on it. Well, he was actually a surprisingly good dancer, like at parties and stuff. Him and my mom were always on the dance floor, moving like they were the only ones out there. Katsuki kept quiet, secretly loving how you lit up when you spoke. He used to teach me, showing me how not to be stiff or how to follow along with the music. It was fun. I'm sure you're a great dancer too, Mr. I'm the best at everything. You lowered your voice, doing your best impression. He rolled his eyes, smirking. Actually, I never learned how to dance. Your eyebrows shot up. Really? Would you ever want to learn? Is that an invitation? He looked over at your relaxed form. You moved to leaning on an elbow, eyes narrowing. You wouldn't. He grinned, leaning down too. Would I? You shot up, brushing the grass from your pants, holding a hand out. You watched his reaction. Never backing down from a challenge, he took it. The second his palm connected with yours, a symphony seemed to rise from the forest and beyond. It was a familiar rhythm, a remembered rhyme. In fact, it was the exact song you were humming the previous night. The music ebbed and flowed, causing the trees to sway in their places. It should have been abrupt, out of the blue, but no shock was felt as Kotsky placed his hand on your waist and matched your steps. He was right. He had no idea how to dance. His steps were out of place, going to the right instead of the left. So, where usually he would be leading, you took over and led him through the song. With each pick of the acoustic guitar and each chord pressed on the piano, your bodies followed. Not used to slow songs, he would start speeding up and get confused. Each time you let out a soft murmur, slower. He would frown and correct his mistake, upset at himself for not getting it down fast enough. Finally, though, he switched positions with you, now leading. His calloused hand fit right into yours, fingers twitching with nervousness. The arm wrapped around you wasn't too tight, simply placed there and subconsciously pulling you closer. As the sun set, you could feel the warmth leave with it. He was the only other heat source for miles, making the energy between you seem like a tangible force. He noticed you take in a shaky breath and move so that both of his hands were wrapped around you. You kept moving from side to side, now with each arm around his neck, with his face directly beside yours. His whispers were easy to hear. "This okay?" You nodded, leaning your forehead on his chest. The tune of the forest continued, breeze carrying the sound of stringed instruments to your ears. The thought-out moves from before switched to simple steps in the moonlight. As the night progressed, you waited for the jerk of being to wake up again. It came, like always, but later than usual, or maybe you were just getting worse with telling time. The clock read 8:03 a.m. in big red numbers. 3 minutes of sleeping in, and your mother had not barged in once. Could she really be getting better so soon? You wanted to trust her newfound giddiness, but it felt off-placed, like she had something else up her sleeve. Either way, you slid out of bed, getting ready and out the door, with a piece of toast hanging out of your mouth. You had just made it to the edge of the sidewalk when her voice had you frozen. "Listener, where are you heading? It's the weekend, kiddo." Her voice rang out into the neighborhood. You rolled your eyes, slowly turning back. "Yeah, I know, I was going to study at the library like I always do." Of course she was confused. On any other Saturday, she'd be out too, out meeting with people and having conversations that were so much more important than you and your whereabouts. "Oh, well, study later. I'm making breakfast and have exciting news to share." She waved you back to the house, and you drudged in, tossing your stuff back into your room. You met her at the table, again. She set a full plate in front of you. It was packed to the edges with eggs, bacon, and more pancakes. You picked up the fork beside it, and didn't even know where to start. The piece of toast from earlier would simply have to make room. She took the seat across and folded her arms neatly. The weird smile was back. You looked to the side, wondering if she just spit it out already. She did. "We're moving to Japan." Her voice was high, eyes wide and glittering. You coughed, hand going to your chest. Japan? Moving? Maybe she really was losing it. When you didn't say anything in reply, mind still reeling, she explained, "I've been having so many meetings and been extra busy because I wanted to work out the details before telling you. My company has offered me a new position in our Japanese location." "That's great." You wanted to be happy for her, really, but Japan was literal continents away, and it was also in the middle of the school year. You'd have to meet a complete new set of strangers. At least you knew the language well enough, so communication wouldn't be as big of an issue as it could be. You didn't even want to think about how hard it would be if you hadn't taken that extra class. "So when is this all happening?" You crossed your fingers under the table. "Maybe you won't have to worry. Maybe it will be a couple of months. Tons of time to prepare." Tomorrow? She cringed, expecting your reaction. We won't officially be moving until next month. The place isn't ready, she continued, leaving no room for your thoughts. But I got in contact with an old friend of mine from high school who moved there when she got married. She's letting us stay over for the week, just to get a feel of everything. You blinked, not sure how long your mouth had been slightly agape. You closed it. We're going to Japan for the week, and we're leaving tomorrow? You did your best to keep your voice leveled. Did you even think to ask how I'd feel? You hated how it sounded coming out of your mouth, but there was no easier way to put it. She was stunned, taken aback. Frowning, she shook her head. Guess I falsely assumed that you'd be excited as well. Unfortunately, listener, the world doesn't revolve around little you. The sentence was cold, biting at your skin. You gasped, fighting the stinging tears with everything inside you. Clearly, you shot back. Pulling away from the table, you found your appetite had disappeared. It's not like I have a life or anything. You threw your hands up, letting out a bitter laugh. She stayed sitting, eyes boring into you. How disappointing. You know, I didn't raise you this way, to be such a selfish person. You refused to back down, tired of spending months doing just that. Oh? And who did? Dad? 'Cause last time I checked, he was gone, and despite you trying to ignore it or push it under the rug, he's not coming back, so this whole raising me thing is all on you now, Mom. You spat the last word at her, not expecting to go so far. Neither did she, apparently. She lifted a shaky finger. Go to your room and don't come out. You huffed, already planning on doing that anyway. The rest of the day was spent with you throwing clothes around, finding what you wanted to pack. Sticking your headphones in, you didn't know and didn't want to know what your mother was doing. The guilt from your harsh words would soon hit. Right now, you had to deal with the current situation. A week in Japan. That night, you didn't get any sleep, too busy stress packing and worrying. That night, Katsuki showed up, and you didn't. Alright, so that's the end of this one. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry this one's a bit shorter. The next few ones might be as well, but I just want to make sure everything is out every Monday. Sorry for also taking a little break, but I needed it. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, whatever, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye!